So we're going to start with a couple simple things, and these are often overlooked personal settings that end users may not know about that can make working with Dynamics 365 a little bit easier. The way to reach these settings is to click on the gear in the upper right corner of the screen. If I click on that gear, it takes me to personal settings. It's the first item on the list there. If I open up personal settings, it's going to open up a screen here any second now. There it is. And it's a screen with the title that says Set Personal Options. Now I'm going to scroll before I go to my personal options. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of this pop-up, and there's a option that says View Your User Information. Now this is where I would go if I wanted to update my profile picture in Dynamics 365. When I click on this, it brings up my user record, and you'll notice that in the upper left corner there's a circle with my initials in it. If I click on that circle, I can update the image to whatever image I want it to be. I'm going to choose a picture of myself, upload this picture into CRM. So now it's going to take that picture, and you'll notice upper left corner, there I am, my new picture. Now, one of the reasons why I like using images and profile pictures for my users in CRM is when I'm looking at an account record, and maybe I'm looking at the activities in that account record, I can quickly see by the image in that activity of who that activity is. So if I recognize from the picture who this is, that's Brian Begley, and this picture is Jim Glynn, I can pretty quickly see who has created or who owns activities. So that's one of the reasons I like to add profile pictures of my users. There are some hacks that you can use using Microsoft Flow to update pictures automatically from Office 365 profile pictures, and there's some resources out on the web for how to do that. So now that we've updated my profile picture, I'm going to close this screen here. We're going to go back to my personal options. And when I go to my personal options, there's a number of changes that I, as an end user, should be making when I use Dynamics 365 to make sure I'm getting the best usage out of it. We're going to start at the top and on the first tab. There's a lot of tabs here, but there's not too many changes that we recommend you make. The first thing I would recommend is looking at what your default homepage and settings is. So what that means is, what's my default homepage? Well, when I start Dynamics 365, I'm going to start in the sales pane, and I'm going to go to the dashboards. But let's say I don't care so much about dashboards. I don't want to look at my dashboards. I want to go immediately to my opportunities, or I want to go immediately to my activities when I start Dynamics 365. So I would leave my pane set as sales, but I would change my default tab to activities. So when I do that, Dynamics 365 is going to reset, and in a few seconds, it should set me that I default to my activities. It looks like it might be taking a little bit more time, but generally, I would now open Dynamics 365. When I go into it, I'm going to go to my activities as my first pane. That saves me a step if I don't care so much about looking at dashboards every time I get in. If I just want to get to my leads, my opportunities, my accounts, my contacts, I can set my default screen there. Another change I always make, and I always recommend for my customers, is changing the number of records per page. By default, Dynamics 365 shows 50 records per page. What that means is a page is in your views. When you're looking at your contacts or accounts, by default, you're only looking at 50 contacts at a time in those lists. If you want to, and I recommend changing this to 250, the reason it's set at 50 was back when first Dynamics 365 was first started, internet speeds were much slower, so sending 250 records at a time would have taken a lot more time and would have slowed down CRM. Now that we all have faster internet speeds, you have 250 records per page because it makes scrolling around CRM much more easier. And like I said, by default, This is set at 50. So I bet if you look at most people in your organization or look at yourself, you're set to 50 records per page. So we always recommend upping it to 250, makes scrolling around in CRM a little bit faster. Next change that we recommend is changing the advanced find mode from simple to detailed. I'll tell you why when we go further on today, but detailed allows you to get started with one less click anytime you're looking to create a custom advanced find query in CRM. So going from simple to detailed right here will reduce a lot of clicks later on, especially if you do a lot of work with advanced finds. The next step is to set your default search experience. We're going to be talking about relevant search later on today. So I usually will set this to relevant search. I'm going to talk about why you don't want to use categorized search anymore. You want to switch to relevant search. So set that to default to be your relevant search. Next is time zone. This is not always correct and can cause troubles when you're looking at reporting on data or looking at data created by other users in the system or data created by you. I would always make sure that you're set with the correct time zone. By default, your user's time zone is the time zone of the CRM organization. So if you have where, for example, we're based in Central Time, but we have users in Arizona, California, Montana. So we always make sure that they set their time zone to the correct time zone when they're using it. So do that, as well as setting your default currency. What this does is every organization has a default currency, or they can use multiple currencies. By default, this field is blank when you get to CRM. So what does that do? Well, what that does for you is when you create opportunities or accounts or leads or any record that requires a currency field in it, if you set your default currency to whatever your default currency is, that will create those records with that currency. So you don't have to fill in the currency field on an opportunity, on an account, on a contact, on a lead. So just one more thing that I would do when I'm working with Dynamics 365. A couple more personal settings that we like to go through. I'm going to go through a few of them a little bit quickly. Is going to email templates. I'm not going to get too deep into email templates here, but from this personal options, I can create custom email templates that I can use when I'm in Dynamics 365. So if I have a standard email I like to send to customers who've purchased from us for the first time, or a contact us type of email to reach out to a customer you haven't spoken to in a while, and you find yourself typing the same email messages over and over again, use email templates. Create your own. You can have organization-wide email templates that are created by your CRM administrators. Your custom email templates allow you to create email templates that only you have access to. After email templates, we have email signatures. We're almost done on the updating personal settings here. Email signatures are just like an email signature in Outlook. It allows you to create an email signature for yourself. So I could say this is my default signature, and I can just type in my name and my job title. And I can choose to change the font size to make it larger or smaller. And I could use this now as my default signature when I'm sending an email out of Dynamics 365. So by default, the first one we create is the default signature, which will get appended to any emails I create in Dynamics if I choose to. But you can have multiple email signatures in addition to multiple email templates. That's email signatures, email templates. Now let's look at a few personal settings that you have for email. There are a number of settings here that we do work with our clients and have them customize and modify to fit with best practices. One thing we like to do is allow other users to send email on your behalf. This is a personal setting because it is set by each user to allow them to control whether other people in Dynamics can send email on behalf. If you don't have this checked and you have a workflow in CRM, for example, that's a notification email that might have your name in the to, that email will be prevented from being sent. Next is tracking email messages. And there's a number of different settings here, but I generally keep my email tracking settings to be automatically track email settings in Outlook from CRM leads, contacts, and accounts. I just find that it makes it easier whenever I get an email from a customer to automatically create that email also tied to that lead or that contact that I'm working with. Finally, the last setting in email that I usually look at is unchecking this setting here. By default, Microsoft is set up so that whenever you receive an email that you track into Dynamics and it is from an email address it doesn't recognize, it's going to create a contact automatically for that sender. What I don't like about it is it just creates a contact with only an email address in it. So it's really kind of a useless contact. And in addition to creating contacts, you can also choose to create leads. I just don't like this setting because it seems like we're creating records in Dynamics that really have no purpose. So I tend to kind of turn that off automatically. Final setting I do in the personal options is related to privacy. By privacy, what I mean is Microsoft asks if you want to send error messages occasionally. I always set this to never. That way we're not getting pop-ups from Microsoft Dynamics saying, hey, we have an error report. Do you mind if we send it to Microsoft? I always turn it off at an organization level, but I also turn it off at a personal level as an end user.